Hello, welcome back, everybody. This is GRE Bytes. My name is Davis. I'm an educator with over 10 years of experience.
And I'm Orion, the founder of Stellar GRE.
And we're here to bring you your weekly bite-sized episode on GRE prep and grad school admissions. Please check out our top-rated GRE self-study program at stellargre.com and use the code BYTES for 10% off all memberships. All right, let's get into it for today. So Orion, as you know, ETS recently released a document which is basically a FAQ response of frequently asked questions regarding the change on the test. I want to know what do you think of it? What's your response? Are there any highlights? Maybe we could just go through it a little bit together.
Absolutely. So as we've discussed on previous episodes, the GRE is changing as of September 22nd, 2023. There will be a new version of the test. We're still learning the details, and recently ETS published a frequently asked questions document about the general test enhancement for test takers, and I thought we could just sort of go through that together and get some reactions here.
No, that sounds like a great idea. So, and we've already covered some of this in previous episodes about the general changes, but what specifically is new potentially in this document?
Yeah, let's take a look. So the biggest things that are going to change have to do with the duration and the structure. So right away, we see that the analytical writing section will be cut from 2 essay tasks down to 1 essay task. They are getting rid of the argument essay prompt completely. The issue essay prompt will stay 30 minutes long. There will still be 2 graded sections for each the quantitative and the verbal halves of the test. But before, they were 2 symmetrical sections of 20 questions each. Now, apparently, there's going to be 27 questions in total, and that was kind of mysterious because 27 is obviously an odd number. But we see somewhere in this document, they finally revealed the breakdown, which is that in each of the first graded verbal and quant sections, there will be 12 questions. And that means that there will be 15 questions in the second graded verbal and quant section. Now, the ETS said that the questions would still keep the same prorate with respect to the time. So let's see if that is actually true. It is. So because the verbal section as it currently exists has 20 questions in 30 minutes, that is 1.5 minutes per question. And that's why in this new 12-question verbal section, students will get 18 minutes to complete that section and 23 minutes to complete the 15-question section.
So what this means functionally then is that even though the test is shorter, which helps for, fatigue and long-term duration, strategies developed and practiced in terms of how to manage your time question to question or within a section are still applicable.
Yeah, that's right. Efficiency strategies will remain as important as ever because if you can't solve the question in 90 seconds or less, you kind of can't solve it, regardless of whether it's 12 questions in a set or 20 questions in a set. You still have to move through questions with intention and purpose. So we have the 12 question, 15 question split. That's a new one. And we know that the test will still be adaptive by section. I assume, this is not in the FAQ, but I assume that there will still be 3 second possible graded sections, an easy, medium, and a hard. And that means that the thresholds for provoking the hardest second section on these first sections are likely going to be a bit more competitive, like a bit more unforgiving. Let's put it that way. On the 20-question set, you have to answer the first 15 questions. You have to get like 3/4 of the questions right, basically, in order to provoke the hardest second section. So 3/4 of 12 would be 9. So that means that students only have 3 points to give, most likely, on the first graded sections in order to provoke the hardest second sections. And that will be absolutely essential because most likely without provoking those hardest second sections, you won't be able to unlock the top percentile scores for the test. You'll come up against a ceiling effect, as we call it, if you fail to do so.
No, that's really helpful to have a better understanding of the total time and the total number of questions in order to provoke the hardest section. I also, the following up section of verbal or quant. I'm noticing here also that, so those, 12 minutes for verbal is 18 minutes, 12 questions for verbal section is 18 minutes. That you said was, 90 seconds per question. 21 minutes for the quant, which is about 105 seconds. It's like 1.75 minutes. Is that new? Is that a longer time period?
No, that's the same. Remember, it's 20 questions in 35 minutes, so that's 1 minute and 45 seconds per quant question, and that is exactly the same here. If it's 1 minute and 45 per question on the quant section, 12 questions would be exactly 21 minutes.
That's exactly right. I misspoke. It's 105 seconds is what you have, not 1 minute and 5 seconds. So 105 seconds is 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Excellent. So what we're getting at is that there's going to be a more unforgiving threshold to unlock those top percentile scores. Students can only miss 3 questions max as opposed to maybe 5. So we've gone from 5 to 3. That is a 40% reduction in that buffer for the hardest second section, which means that while efficiency has remained exactly as necessary in the new version as in the current version, it means that accuracy is actually 40% more important than it used to be. So this creates a challenge for the test. We've taken away the endurance component of the test. I mean, the test is still nearly 2 hours long, but by cutting it in half, we've gotten rid of the the sustained mindfulness component as much, but we replaced it with a greater concentrated focus on accuracy and carelessness.
That's right. And I'm also noticing that this new test, I don't know if we've covered this before, will not have a 10-minute break between sections, and so there's not as much of a recharge space. Is that what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's no 10-minute break anymore in the new version. So students will have to have a more streamlined approach. I'm also not sure if the park screen will still exist. That was something that might have been an oversight in the test construction in the current version. We'll have to see if they've corrected that oversight in the new version. If that's the case, you kind of have to we'll have to develop new strategies for refreshing people's consciousness between sections if we can't rely on that, but we don't really know for sure. ETS in this FAQ also discusses that they will release practice tests online using this new format, but not until the new version is released, which I think is a little strange. They're basically saying that because the content is the same and there's no new questions, then all pre-existing materials should be useful to prepare for the new version of the test. And so we'll all be kind of figuring out how this works after the fact. But once we do, we'll be able to reverse engineer some of those adaptability thresholds and score guidelines and get some more feedback about the breaks between sections.
I appreciate your feedback and your reflection on this ETS FAQ response document. You can find that online on ETS's website to review the whole thing yourselves. Thank you, Orion, and thanks everybody for tuning in. That's all we have time for today, but we'll be back next week for another bite-sized episode of GRE Bites. If you have a topic you'd like to discuss on a future episode, please reach out to us, let us know, send us an email at stellargre@gmail.com. And if you're ready to start your own prep, check out our top-rated GRE self-study program at stellargre.com, and you can use the code BITES for 10% off all memberships. Talk to you guys again next week.